Winston suddenly saw her as beautiful. He thought his thoughts of there being no hope. There was hope. Just look at the pearls. He felt comfort while watching the woman. This woman sang. The birds sang. Party did not sing. Winston said aloud, "Where are the dead?" Julia repeated what he said. "We are the dead." There was a third voice in the room. "You are the dead." Winston and Julia stopped in shock. Behind the picture of St. Clement's Dam was a telescreen. It had kept track of all their actions in the room. The voice mimicked their feelings. A letter crashed through the window. Troops entered the room. They threatened Winston and then smashed the paperweight. Winston thought about how the world was safe in a paperweight. They jumped on Winston and Julia and caused them to fall onto the floor. Winston got kicked. Julia was beaten and carried away, her face yellow and contorted. Then they were arrested. Winston felt sad as glass broke. He could recognize the voice on the telescreen. Mr. Charrington. It looked different when it was him. As he entered the room, Winston realized he was a member of the third voice the whole time. He did not know where he was. He assumed he was in the Ministry of Love, but there was no way to know for sure. The ceilings were high and they lowered. The light was cold from the lamp, and he could hear the air humming. There were a small bench and a toilet with no seat. There were 4 telescreens, 1 in each wall. His stomach hurt. He had hurt ever since they drove him away in the van. However, he was also hungry. He did not know how long it had been since he last ate. He sat on the bench, not moving, hands on his knees. If he made any sort of movements, the yell from the telescreen. He was just so hungry he put his hand in his pocket to search for food. Smith, yelled the voice from the telescreen. 6079 Smith Law. Hands out of pockets in his house. He sat still again, his hands crossed on his knee. Before being brought here, he had been taken to another place, which must have been a temporary jail used by the patrols. He did not know how long he had been there. It was hours for sure, but with no clocks and no daylight. It was hard to tell. It was noisy. It had an evil smell to it. He and 15 others crowded in a cell. Most were common criminals. A few were political prisoners. Winston had sat quietly against the wall. His stomach was bothering him so much he didn't even notice things around him. The party prisoners felt quiet and scared. The regular criminals couldn't have cared less about anybody or anything. He yelled mean things at the guards. If their belongings were impounded, they would have a tantrum. They wrote rude words on the floor, and then there were noise. Those who seemed friendly with the guards. They would use affectionate nicknames. Many expected to be sent to a forced labor camp. Prisoners were constantly coming and going. Some were drug dealers, others were prostitutes, and many were drunk. Some of the drunks were so violent their fellow prisoners were forced to help subdue them. 4 guards carried an enormous woman around 60. With thick twists of white hair which had come down in her struggles. She was kicking and shouting as the guards got hold of her. When he was in the temporary jail, there was a woman who vomited on the floor right next to him. Her last name was also Smith. What's your name, dearie? She said, Smith and Winston. Smith, said the woman. That is funny. My name is Smith too. Why? She added, I might be your mother. She might, thought Winston, be his mother. She was about the right age. No one else had spoken to him. It was surprising that ordinary criminals ignored party prisoners. It might be 2 or 3 hours ago that they had brought them here. The pain in his stomach never left. It got better, then worse. He hardly thought of Julia. He could not fix his mind on her. He loved her and would not betray her, but he felt no real love for her. He hardly wondered what even had happened to her. He thought of O'Brien more than her. He held out hope that O'Brien would save him somehow. The Brotherhood never tried to save its members. However, Winston thought of their razor blade and how sometimes the Brotherhood could get it for suicide. Still, Winston was unsure, even he had the razor blade, he could even bring himself to commit suicide. Sometimes he tried to count the number of bricks in the walls of the cell. It should have been easy, but he always lost count. More often he wondered where he was and what time of the day it was. At one moment he felt certain that it was daylight outside, and the next moment he felt certain it was night time. In this place he knew instinctively. The lights would never be turned out. Here is the place with no darkness. He saw now why O'Brien had seemed to recognize the illusion. In the Ministry of Love there were no windows. The cell might be at the heart of the building or against its outer wall. It might be 10 floors below ground or 30 above it. He moved himself mentally from place to place and tried to determine by the feeling of his body whether he was perched high in the air or buried deep underground. Winston's colleague from the Records Department, Ampleforth, was also tossed into his cell for the crime of using the word God in one of his translations of Kipling. Ampleforth, he said. Or Smith had said, you too, what are you in for? To tell you the truth, he sat down. There is only one offense, right? And have you committed it? I guess I have. Do you know what time of day it is? Winston said. Ampleforth said he had no idea what time it was. They continued talking quietly when suddenly the telescreen yelled at them to be quiet. There was no reason for them to be yelled at, and Winston sat still with his hands in his lap. Ampleforth was too big to sit comfortably on the bench, and he kept moving side to side. The door opened. The pain in Winston's stomach was back. A guard entered, and then Parsons walked into the cell. Winston was shocked. You are here, he said. Parsons looked at Winston miserably. He started walking back and forth. What are you in for? Said Winston. Third crime, said Parsons. Stoddard accused him of third crime. She told Peters that her father had said in his sleep. That would be brother. Parsons was not mad at his daughter. He was proud that he raised her to be a loyal member of the party. Are you guilty? Said Winston. Of course I'm guilty, cried Parsons. He fully admitted to being guilty of his crime. Winston observed many taken out of the yourself to go to room 101, even talking about the raincoat. Want to feel fear. Person strictly. It's time to use the bathroom in that small room, and it's so lovely. The room smelled horrible for hours. Persons was removed, and more prisoners came and went. One person arrived and appeared to be starving. Winston tried to offer him some bread, but the telescreen boy stopped him. Right then, the starving man was taken to room 101. When he heard where he was going, he begged for any other kind of punishment. The guards beat him until he went